a lot of times when these programs were drawn up and thought about and implemented, they didn't have no minority fathers at the table when they were drawn up. So a lot of these programs, when I speak to programs about helping to bridge that gap between fathers and organizations and communities, I always tell them you have to look at it from a historical viewpoint.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is many times when programs were started and implemented, they came into communities of color, marginalized communities, underserved communities, and they would just come in and promise things and kind of like the politician. They promised this and promised that, and the communities were lucky if they got like a tenth of that or what they were promised. So when you think about that, a lot of these programs, a lot of these fathers and minority communities, they don't trust the leaders of these programs. And until you can start acknowledging that and building that trust, your programs aren't going to be what they could be, what they should be.
Yeah.
And see, I that's the thing I try to talk to programs about is if you're going to reach out to fathers or something, that it's got to be done a little bit differently.
Right.
Because mothers will show up because it's intrinsically better for their child.
Right.
Fathers want the same things, but fathers want to know what's in it for them.
Right.
And at one time, I thought that was a negative, but now I could understand after speaking with them and working with them, like, they are so maligned, so marginalized that they really don't want a part of this. And I was like, one thing I always ask fathers is, do you want better for your child?
Right.
Universally, everyone says yes, and that's whether you're white, green, yellow, or black.
Right.
And okay, so when I ask them this, I always ask them, well, how's that going to happen? And that's when they get that blank stare in their face. And I was like, try to give them some pointers about how it could happen and what role they have to play in making that happen. So that's where I'm at with fathers, minority fathers. I love speaking to them, and I love opening their eyes to what's needed for their child in their community. And, a lot of them have faced ACEs, which is adult.
Adverse childhood experiences.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of times I had a few fathers who didn't feel that they had any. So I told them, instead of saying childhood, what if you put community in there? Switch childhood with community. And they was like, yeah, I'm going to have some stories about that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, fathers, they wanted to get better, but they didn't even know how they could explain it to professionals of what they were going through.
Yeah.
So the minute I started talking about ACEs, they were like, a light bulb went off. Because a lot of them is generational.
Right.
They just went from one generation to the next, and nothing has changed.
Yep.